Hey there, Fellowship family. Welcome to your one-stop shop for all things church life. My name is Mark Francis, and I'm once again your host for today. I'm excited today because we haven't been with you in a little while, but this particular episode I would just consider to be a one-time conversation with somebody who is in ministry here at Fellowship Bible Church, and you might not know him that much. You know, it kind of spawned because we had some conversations recently about where some changes in our staff have been going. And we know that Don Den Hartog and Patty, they're going to be moving and leaving. And there's a big gap that he may be leaving behind. But he mentioned somebody's name in that episode that is going to step in and hopefully fill some of those shoes in the Biblical Training Center here at FBC. And his name is Bo Spires. How are you?
Hey, wonderful, Mark. Thanks for having me this morning.
Absolutely. I'm excited to be here with you and have a chat, just to get to know you a little bit and just hear what God is doing in your life, but also in the life of the ministry here at FBC where you serve. So walk me through just a little brief history. Where have you been? How long have you been here to FBC? Just start out, just start talking. Tell me about yourself.
All right. Well, originally, I was born and raised in Albany, Georgia, so down south. Yeah.
Okay.
And
you get a little bit of the southern accent.
Yes, I get told that a lot. A little slow, but yeah, I. Long story short, born and raised in Albany, Georgia. Went to school there, undergrad there, and pursued engineering. And then after engineering school, I went and worked at Eglin Air Force Base and hated it, and it was not for me. And so I'm an actual career changer. So let me back up a little bit. While I was at Georgia Tech, I met my wonderful wife, Bo Spires.
So you're Yellow Jacket.
Yes, I am a Yellow Jacket.
See, I'm a Demon Deacon, so I don't know if that sounds good for a church podcast, but there you go. Yeah.
But yes, definitely Yellow Jacket through and through. And so while there, I met Becca, and we started dating and eventually got married. We've been married 17 years. We have 3 children. Addison is our oldest, Owen is our middle, and Luke is our youngest. And so while at Georgia Tech, I met her, and then we had a long distance relationship for a while. And then because I went back home to Albany, Georgia after graduating, and then finally got a job in engineering down at Eglin Air Force Base. After I moved down there, we got married, and she moved down with me, and we were there for 7 years. And after that, we, I decided to switch careers, and we kind of looked at that and searched that out, and really felt the Lord was leading into healthcare because I love people and I love helping people. And so I went around and looked at different healthcare professions, and we settled on pharmacy. And the neat thing is that while we were looking at different pharmacy schools to attend, we wanted to stay on the East Coast, but we weren't quite sure where. And the Lord just really worked different things out, and we were introduced to Fellowship listening to the online sermons.
Really?
Yes.
Neat.
And so, and I was just, the way Mark exegetically taught through the scriptures and went through books of the Bible just was so refreshing. And I knew that's where we wanted to be. So
how did you find Fellowship online?
Well, Becca actually grew up here in Stephen City. So she, as we were discussing places to go, our church was a big area because in Florida, it's hard to find good sound churches. And so she's like, well, I've heard about Fellowship Bible Church, and let's just listen to it. Let's explore it online and see. And it happened to have sermons on there, so we're like, okay, well, let's see what we got going there. And so we started listening to it, and like I said, right then and there, we were like, okay, this is where we need to go. So I applied to Shenandoah.
So you really kind of thought about the city and the town of where you'd be, the church, and then the school.
Yeah, because we got into...
That's a little backwards for a lot of people.
It is.
That's cool to hear.
And we, because I applied to University of Florida, which would have been in-state tuition and all of that good stuff. And Shenandoah is not a cheap place to go. So, but it was worth it. We both knew we wanted our family raised in a sound church.
Sure.
Sound Bible
Sure.
teaching church.
Sure.
So that was our big influence of coming up here.
Yeah, no,
So-
I love that. So you come back and you're a second career person.
Yes.
You're now going to go to school. How long was that school process for you?
Well, that's funny you ask, because it was 7 years. And it was 7 years because when we decided engineers don't do a lot of the life science
Right.
courses. So
Right.
I had to go back while I was in Florida. And I took a night class per semester for 3 years. I had to take inorganic chemistry 1
Okay.
and 2 again, biology 1 and 2, so that I could have those prerequisites
Yeah.
to get into pharmacy school.
Sure.
So that was 3 years. And then pharmacy school was another 4
Oof.
on top of that. So, yeah, and we came
That's
up here.
commitment. Yeah.
We came up here in 2010,
Uh-huh.
and I started August of 2010, and we've been here ever since.
How did that work out for your family? Because I have a very similar story
Yeah.
where my wife is a second career and she had to take prerequisites to go back to school. Our kids were middle school, elementary age, and to go through the prerequisites and then the schooling for PA program for her at Shenandoah was very similar.
Right.
So we have kind of a common ground there. And I know from the standpoint of watching her go through that was challenging, and
Yeah.
as a family. So how did that impact your family when you guys are going through the move and the schooling and all of that?
It was, it was tough. It was, I called Becca, she was my sugar mama for 4 years. So she taught. We were so blessed because her parents live here as well. And so Addison was about 2 at the time when we moved up here. So Becca's mom, Pam Strother, she volunteered to keep Addison to help with daycare costs, and Becca worked, and then I went to school pretty much full time in the fall and spring, and then summers I did internships, and we just had a tight budget and kind of rolled through those 4 years.
So you mentioned Pam Strothers.
Yes.
And so some people listening might know that family. So
Yes.
Pam is married to
Charlie
Yeah.
Strother, and Charlie actually works up here at the church, and he's
Does
at
some
the hospital
custodial
as well.
stuff and
Yep.
hospital and
Yep.
work in community groups, I believe.
Yes.
So
Yes.
there's some
very
connections there.
involved.
Yes.
There he is.
That's neat. So, all right, walk me through then how you really got plugged in here to Fellowship Bible Church. So you came here, moved into town, going to school, new career that seems to be working out. I'm assuming.
Yes, it is. It is. I'm currently at Winchester Medical Center working as a pharmacist there in the emergency department. So it's a great area, but it's it worked out very well because I remember when we first came here, we were just so excited to be at a good, solid church that I saw Mark Carey coming into the children's area, and I just asked him, I said, Mark, I'd like to be discipled. Do you have any suggestions? And he said, well, what's interesting to you? And I said, well, he's like, are you a counselor? Are you interested in, this, and this? And I said, well, I really love learning the scriptures. I'm not quite sure of my spiritual gift yet. But I think I like teaching. I like sharing what I learn. He said, I got the perfect guy for you. And that's when he introduced me to Don. He introduced me to Don Den Hartog. We started, he started doing Bible studies with young men, which he does all the time, and just got plugged in with him, and the rest is kind of history. 10 years later, he challenged me. He was very good. He's like, all right, let's go through these books. Let's look through this. And soteriology was a big one. Eschatology was a big area of focus too. And then he spurned me to not only just, I know Mark says this a lot, but sit, soak, and sour. He wanted me to start developing those spiritual gifts, and I'm very grateful that he did. He pushed me, and I remember the first time I taught something here was co-teaching with him, which was kind of surreal and also a little intimidating the first time.
Sure.
Yeah, and it was a Hebrews class, and got up and taught the first time scared to death, but it went well. Nobody threw anything at me and told me to get off stage. So
that's a good start.
He pushed me and challenged me, and that's kind of how I was led into this BTC area, formerly known as the Adult Learning Center.
Sure. So just give me a sense of your personality. Like what are you passionate about? Like what things get you excited? Not necessarily in your career, but just in life. What are you passionate about?
Well, I'm really passionate about studying the Word, and I'm passionate about helping people grow in their faith. The crux of the spiritual life is the Scriptures, and one of the things that I was so just enamored with my pastor back at home in Albany, Pete Daltrey at Albany Bible Church, and then Don and Mark and John and our pastors here, is just how accurately and well they handle the Word. And to see people, an example is a lot of the classes we teach, the freedom that people have when they realize just grace, and so we don't have to work for our salvation, and that's a predominant teaching in Christianity today. And to see people released from that bondage is that excites me. That's what I'm passionate about, and I love as you handle those scriptures and do it accurately, like I've seen the men here doing that lead us. I'm passionate about that. I'm also passionate about, I love, lifting weights and working out and playing with the kids. Those are passions of mine as well. But I would say that's my biggest passion.
I mean, that the deeper one that you're talking about of unpacking the Word, but then sharing it with others. I can see that come through, and even how you communicate. And so it's not just internalizing it for yourself, but then it's how do you impart that to other people? And that's where the teaching component comes out. And that's where, you were fed into by the pastors. And then you can't just let that sit. So how do you then feed into other people? Are you part of any kind of discipleship programs right now where you're mentoring other people? Or is it just kind of the teaching in front of the masses on a Sunday morning?
No, it's the teaching, and then also I'm doing I meet every other week with Brad Den Hartog, and then we're starting to meet with Cole Dreyer too, who's another teacher, and that's one of the things that I'm excited about with this new role is just the opportunity to do that, to really Don led by example with me, and just to perpetuate that example to men that are interested, that are hungry for the Word, that want to do that type of thing. And right now it's Brad and Cole. So
you refer to new role. So part of the impetus of coming and chatting with you today was because Don just mentioned your name, and as he leaves, then you're kind of filling in a void here. Walk me through what that looks like. Is it a staff position? Is it something that you're just volunteering to do? And what does it really look like for the Biblical Training Center class for you being involved?
Well, I'm sure you're aware, Mark, the Biblical Training Center had a kind of a facelift. We changed from the Adult Learning Center to the Biblical Training Center. And one of the major factors for doing that is first, biblical needed to be in the name, because we want to give people the idea of what it's centered around. It's the scriptures. And then the training center, we've before it was mostly Bible classes and theology, and the elders wanted to expand the scope of it. And so each semester we're doing family life is doing classes up there now. And then we have financial peace that's doing some counseling. Community group leadership training will occur up on the second floor now. But another still major component of it is our Bible classes, going through just like Mark does on Sunday mornings, but going through books of the Bible, and that's where I'll be organizing as part of my role with the BTC oversight, organizing the other class. But that's easy, hey, John Morrison or John Avery, what do y'all plan teaching? And they send it to and just scheduling rooms. But the part that I will be heavily involved in is still those classes that are going through the scriptures and different theology classes and teaching those. And for example, this fall we're going through Cole Dreyer and I are co-teaching, and fall and winter spring courses we're doing the Joe Hannine epistles. And so we're going to work through those verse by verse. And so so organizing the classes, helping to teach the classes as part of the BTC, my role with the BTC, but which I'm very passionate about because let me get it up here because I always misquote this, but our mission statement here: preparing and deploying dependent disciples of Jesus Christ who change their world for Him as they are being changed by Him. And I'm passionate about that because these classes help do that. They work hand in glove with Mark's sermons of preparing disciples here. But then also, not only that, our focus, as we just said, is not for people just to, oh, wow, that was great, and, internalize it. But that part of being changed by Him, they're going out into the world, but they're also being changed by Him. And as I mentioned before, for example, the salvation, just seeing people freed by correct Bible teaching is what changes us. And so I'm passionate about this role too, because I'm helping prepare, but we're also in the process of changing, and correct doctrine is important. And we're going through 1 John now, and one of the things John tells us in John 4 is that, people that deny the humanity of Christ are antichrist. They're false teachers, and the whole purpose of 1 John is abiding, that fellowship. So putting two and two together, if we don't have correct understanding of the scriptures, our fellowship is hindered. We're not being changed by the scriptures. So again, just that importance. We're preparing, but also changing folks. And that excites me. That gets me very excited.
You've said a lot of things that are making my head spin as far as just what I want to unpack and just develop, because what you shared of how FBC has kind of encouraged you to see the grace of God and to then share that with others is incredible. I mean, I hear stories after stories of how people come in from a legalistic background. And churches have beaten them down, and they're either guilty or they feel just depressed, or they feel like that they're not good enough, or just there's the rules of things are weighing them down. That we're teaching grace here, and this is what Scripture teaches. So we're just revealing that in a way and pointing people to the Word to say that is freeing. And I love how you can see the freedom from that. But then also what you shared, that this is not just a typical Sunday school class. This is not just something that is your grandparents' Sunday school where you show up and you just look at a school scripture and then that's it. We're looking at a cross-pollination of ministries here, that you've got counseling, that you're going to be really diving deep of what that looks like, family life, community groups that are all here on a Sunday morning that is part of Biblical Training Center. I think that's a new thing that not everybody has been exposed to realize that, there's definitely Bible teaching happening, but there's also education happening. Would you say that that's kind of a fair statement? And then how does the application get played out? So if you're learning and you're receiving all this information, where do you see kind of the application of these truths get played out during the course of the week?
Right. Yeah, I would say that's a very accurate statement, and just kind of broaden that scope. But really, the application comes as we teach, as we instruct, just showing how that works in our teaching, and then encouraging folks each week to go out and live it. I know Mark, one of his big things at the end of the service is, now our ministry begins. Once we walk out of here, now the work starts. And so, but then also one of the aspects that I like and about discipleship as well is that we kind of get to go through that together.
And it starts by coming and gathering here on a Sunday.
Yes.
But then it also, like you said, let the worship service now begin. Then it's like, okay, how are you meeting with, whether it's Cole or Brad?
Yeah.
Or how are they meeting with other people? And there's this 2-on-3 kind of group of
Yes.
people that are doing life together.
And one of the great things is, and I know relationships are kind of, they're hard, it's kind of awkward. Hey, how are you doing? You want to go eat lunch or something like that? But a great thing, we were in the intensive with John and Joe and this with the family life this past, whenever we had it, a few months ago. And, my wife, we were doing the class, and at the end of it, as we were doing kind of group discussions, we just asked for a phone number, and it spawned a relationship between this young lady and my wife that now they go to the pool together. They talk about, like, they do life together, and it just spawned that friendship. And so that's one of the things that I like to see in the classes as well, whether it be a counseling class or a John class or anything like that, is just people coming together and getting to know each other as well, and then wrestling with the text together, and then getting that one-on-one, two-on-one starting. And Becca, she's done several Bible studies too with ladies that's what they do, and they talk about their kid. But then also not just coming together with the Bible studies, but then when a kid's sick, they know, hey, I can call you, and if I need help, I can call you. And that's where I think we take it to that next level of intimacy in the body, is where I can call you and say, hey, Mark, we need help on this, or we're struggling with this, or my kid just broke his arm. Can you come over and sit with the other two?
It's doing life together, and that's what's biblical, and that's what we're called to be a part of, is this community. And when you shared the FBC mission statement, out of a desire to glorify God as a spiritual community, is that first part of it, where there's that component of we're doing this together. And just coming on Sunday morning isn't good enough. And being a part of a biblical training center is one great step. But how are we also then being challenged to have those deeper relationships with people? So that's a great encouragement, that if you're listening and you're not part of one, I'll encourage you to pray about that and see, where does God have you to be, whether it's a community group or discipleship group, or just finding a couple of people who can encourage you in that way. I think you're a neat example of how you are at least able to see the need in your own life to say, okay, I want to grow, and approach somebody like Mark Carey, or approach anybody here at church. Say, how do I get more plugged in? I mean, that's a great next step, but that takes the initiative to do that. And that's, and being able to step outside of your comfort zone and say, I do want to grow. I need to get a little bit uncomfortable. And learn more about God, and then grow in my own walk, to then how can I share that with other people? It's a great example and a great model, I think, of what we're all called to do. So thank you. That's a neat testimony, because we're able to be encouraged from that. So by the way, I'll just ask, so the role that you have, you're still going to be in pharmacy, right? So this role of being coordinator, does it have a specific title? And what does that look like here at FBC?
Well, it's currently, it's volunteer. And so I'll be doing that as part of the BTC. And another area is, we have the Love Truth team, which Don was heading up over that. We're kind of revamping. I'm talking with John Van Drunen, or will be, about what that looks like. But one of the things that is important, and Mark has talked about this, is ensuring doctrinal integrity in the church. And the Love Truth team was formed for that purpose. And kind of my vision with that is we revamp it. I know the elders have talked before in the past about how sometimes they feel like the church kind of has silos, and sometimes people don't kind of talk across the silos. And I think the Love Truth team can protect the doctrine of the church, as well as kind of bridge that gap with the silos, by just on the team, developing this team to have representatives from, children's ministry, nursery, worship teams, and just saying, okay, here's our doctrine. Here's what we hold to. Here's why. And then as we go out into those different ministry areas, having a monthly check-in where you hear someone coming in and saying, hey, like, for example, in 1 John, Jesus wasn't really fully human, that should send some alerts,
right.
And we should listen to that. Or subtleness,
right.
hey, you've got to, yes, believe Christ for eternal life, but you also need to do this as well.
Yeah.
And kind of and having people out there kind of with their ear to the ground listening to protect it, because a lot of the New Testament is written to combat false doctrine from creeping in, and so it's an important role. So that's kind of another area that I'll be a part of. So those two are the main areas.
That's neat to hear, because I don't know if everybody really understands the kind of these behind the scenes teams that exist.
Yeah.
And you mentioned love truth. To me, I know what that means, and I can share it. It's basically there's 5 core values along with our mission statement here at FBC. The 5 core values of love God, love truth, love family, love church, and love the world. And so to have the love truth team and that champion that core value behind the scenes, I find very encouraging to know that, okay, the direction of our church, the vision of our church is going to have a group of people that'll be strategically thinking, what are we putting in the minds of people as they're learning, as they're teaching?
Right.
And I think that is going to be a neat thing in years to come, to know that, okay, you're a part of that. There's other group of guys that are part of that. Elders, obviously, but they're challenging you guys as a Love Truth team to think through all of these things. And how does that partner with worship? How does it partner with families? How does that partner with going out into the world and reaching out to our communities and being accurate in what the word says?
Right.
Yeah, that's... I really find that to be encouraging, as just somebody talking to you, you'd be like, yes, okay.
Yeah.
This is a church that I want to be connected with because we have those foundations. So where do we go from here? Like, in the summer, there's not exactly tons of classes that are being offered. What's happening in the fall and in the future for Biblical Training Center?
Well, we're going to gear up here in September, and we're going to have Financial Peace University. We're going to advertise probably starting in August the different classes. Our teachers are getting all their write-ups in, but we're going to have several Bible classes. As I mentioned, we're doing the Johannine epistles. We're going to have a couple Old Testament classes, and then family life counseling, financial peace, community group leadership. And we'll be putting those out on the website. Jennifer Wiseman will be helping with our advertisement and stuff, and the and the whole communications team. And not to leave anybody out on that, I know it's not a one-person team, but that's who I've been communicating with a lot. And so we'll be putting those out in the description. So we have a lot. We have the next ministry year planned out as far as the classes. And then this summer, we're going through the Beatitudes. And during the summertime, since everybody's away and we kind of like to give our teachers some time off, we, just have one class that teaches both hours, and just doing that one class over the summer.
Great. Well, I'm encouraged. And you know what? If you're listening and you are getting energized by this conversation, you're like, wow, that is something that I want to get plugged into and be a part of, I've got just the guy for you.
Yeah, come see me.
Come see Bo, because you know what? Years ago, he pursued Mark Carey, and he then went to Don Den Hartog. He's got the knowledge that's passed down to him. Bo, you now get the chance to impart that to others. So I'm excited about just how God has shaped your background and career to lead you here, to be a part of our church, growing you, preparing and deploying. We are now deploying not out of our campus, but deploying you inside of our campus to continue to champion loving truth in our church. So thanks for being a part of the conversation today. I'm excited about that. And you know what? If there's any comments or questions or things that in our podcast that has sparked an interest, please share them with us. We'd love to get to know you even more. You can go to fbcva.life/podcast. Go to the show notes of any of the apps or locations where you're listening or watching. our podcast. And even next week, Bo, you mentioned Financial Peace University. We're going to get a chance to hear a couple who is a part of that particular class and hear their story that is going to hopefully impact and encourage you even more. So thanks for watching and listening. Bo, once again, thank you for being a part of us today. And
thanks for having me.
Exciting to get to know you a little bit more. And until we chat again, let's let Christ be the focus of your life each and every day.